Om Shanti, how are you? So, recently, to be exact, on August 8th, in the night, in a state government run hospital called Arjigar Medical College Hospital, 4 trainee doctors were watching Olympics in a seminar hall and they were ordering dinner. Then after that, 3 girls, they went to do their night shifts, and one trainee doctor, she decided to stay there and read some books. And around 3 a.m. in the early morning, she dozed off. And at 4 a.m., one civic volunteer of Kolkata Police who was on duty in that hospital, he is having free access to every place in the hospital. He was doing his shift there at around 3 a.m. So he enters the seminar hall by 4 a.m. and he leaves the seminar hall by 4:40 to 4:45 a.m. So around 40 to 45 minutes he was near that girl. What was he doing? So it was evident when people found the young trainee doctor of 31 years old lying dead with scars all over her body, bloods coming out of her eyes, her nose, her private parts, her collarbone got broken. So she was severely murdered and raped. And who was the culprit? How did they find him? First, by seeing the CCTV camera. When he enters the seminar hall, he was having a Bluetooth, but while leaving the seminar hall, Bluetooth was not on his ears. Instead, it was near the dead body of the 31-year-old young trainee doctor. So when they tried to connect the Bluetooth, it's getting connected to Sanjay Roy's mobile phone. So he was suspected and arrested, and during the initial investigation itself, he accepted that he raped and murdered her. So he was actually married 4 times, and all his previous marriages were broken because of his misconduct. He was a drunkard. He used to behave violently with his wives, because of which he was even complained against in a police station. And even at the time of this crime, he was drunk. He used to go behind the hospital. He was having drinks while watching pornography. His mobile was filled with pornographic movies. Not an ordinary one. Well, pornography itself is not ordinary, but it is so violent pornography, which indicates that he must be a mentally abnormal person, mentally violent person. So that was quite evident out of his crime. And he says that if you want to hang me, hang me. So he is so cool. He just left the place after committing murder, and he was sleeping at the hospital. Only by 7 o'clock in the morning he realized what he did. So he immediately leaves to his home and he removes all the indicators, that is, his dress was filled with her blood stain. So he removes those clothes, he takes bath, and still the bloodstain was found on his shoes. But anyway, it is confirmed that he is a culprit, but the police suspects that it maybe many are involved in such crime, because uh, one girl can shout, or she can escape, uh, but if it is just a single person, so that's why they think maybe multiple persons are involved in this. Even the state chief Mamata Banerjee said that strict action, that is the death penalty, will definitely be given to the culprit. So police investigation is going on. So this proves how deadly desire to sex is. So we are seeing doctors always preaching for sex, for abnormal sex, for all sorts of sex, masturbation, everything. And now, so even the doctors get abused because of this wrong teachings. Because sex is more addictive than the most addictive drug ever found on the planet. But still, especially in this internet era, we see many doctors speaking for sex. So instead of speaking against sex, they are speaking for sex, through which the whole society, every single member of this society is getting affected. Now even doctors get affected. Not only female doctors. In another place, in in a recent news, a male doctor was touching his female patient inappropriately. He was doing it repeatedly. First, she was warning him on her first visit. He was a physiotherapist. Then, in the second visit, again he was not only touching her inappropriately, but he was also masturbating while he was seeing her body, semi-nude body. So that's when she got hold of him and she was shouting and thrashing him. So everything is because of this addiction towards sex. So addiction is something that you have to come totally out of it. There is nothing called normal dose for any addictive drug. That includes sex, which is the most addictive thing. So there are many sexual crimes, especially in war zones. These sexual assaults are very common, whether be it Sri Lanka or Ukraine or Israel-Palestine war. It happens quite frequently. In ISIS, they kidnap many Iraqi girls and they rape them. They rape even minor girls. They sell them. One girl, she says that she was uh, daily raped by an ISIS guy continuously for 2 years, even before she gets her first menstrual cycle. And alongside her, another guy was raping a 10-year-old girl. So such is the addiction. And also, in this Palestine-Israel war, some Palestinian women are taken as prisoners, and one girl says, and I watched only the audio of it, I don't know whether it's true or not, because it's from a pro-Palestine channel. But before that, whatever I mentioned, the girls themselves speak in front of the camera. Here just it's audio note, that's it. So she says that Israeli women soldier took her to a separate place and she was asking her to uh, strip off her dress, and she was made to stand semi-nude, or she was made to stand only in her inner wear, and she was searching her body, including the sole of the feet. Then she makes her dress up fully, takes to another place where there are many girls who are uh, nude, semi-nude, and this girl was again made to become nude. She was saying this. So all these things happen at this time, and it's become so common nowadays to listen to such sexual assaults on daily basis. And also we are saying the world gets destroyed right before our eyes, but still it couldn't stop humans from committing sexual sins because people are so much addicted, and we can't stop it because this is Kali Yuga. That's how people behave. Sins will increase day by day, so nobody can stop it. But only thing that is in our hands is to save ourselves from committing such acts. If you think you having sex with your husband or wife is normal, mark my words, you will soon be committing one of the sins that I have mentioned in the previous examples. Because sex is so addictive, when you are put into that situation, you will see yourself committing such sin as if it's a normal thing, because those sinners think that it is normal, they don't see anything abnormal to it. So that's how people normalize sex nowadays. All sorts of fetish sexual acts they normalize. So beware of it. First realize that it is a sin, so that itself will make you go ahead in your path of celibacy, which is essential for two reasons. One, you should not be part of those sinners, and the second one is, believe it or not, we have sinned a lot for the past 2500 years when this world was heaven, but we didn't commit such acts in the first 2500 years when this world was heaven. Only in hell we get addicted to lust, anger, greed, attachment and ego, these five vices. The first 2500 years this world was absolutely vice free world. You may wonder then how childbirth takes place in heaven. Of course, marriage takes place, childbirth takes place, but that's not out of sex. But when the husband and wife thinks of having a baby, the girl gets pregnant. I know it's hard to believe, but that's how it was in the beginning. So they didn't know what sex is. They were as pure as a newborn child. That is the reason Hindus till date worship the residents of heaven as deities. Where have they gone now? Nowhere. They just take birth after birth and enter hell and start making sin after sin, and now watching this video like you and me. Yes, we were the deities in the beginning, and the reason we were not committing these five vices in the beginning was we were not body conscious as we are now. Instead, we were soul conscious. That is, we considered ourselves to be the soul that shines like a tiny star in between the eyebrows, which is why we apply tilak here. So the souls see through the eyes, listen through the ears, perform all actions through the bodies, and every single being in heaven are aware of this every second. So they were always soul conscious, and while interacting with others, their focus will be in between the eyebrows where the soul resides. And that's the reason they were constantly blissful and peaceful, because the true nature of the soul itself is blissfulness and peacefulness. So God says it is because we become body conscious slowly, we no longer focus on souls, which is why we no longer experience blissfulness from within. So we want to experience happiness from our immediate environment. That's how we become addicted to sensual pleasures, which reduces the soul power. Then we become addicted to those five vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. So under the influence of these five vices, we commit many sins, many murders. So that's what we are saying in this Kolkata rape case. So God says, we have been sinning for the past 2500 years. We have performed lots and lots of sins. There's absolutely no doubt about it. So that's why we are getting punished in the form of many diseases and sexual assaults, everything. God says there's a way to escape from the punishment, and the only way to do that is to fill your soul with the power that it originally possessed in the beginning. How do you fill our souls with power? By connecting our mind with the Supreme Soul, who is called God Shiva by Hindus, Allah by Muslims, Heavenly Godfather by Christians. God is just one. The only difference between the other souls who reside along with him in this golden red colored light world called Parlok or Parandam is we enter this birth and death cycle in heaven and hell, while God stays away from taking birth either in heaven or hell. Nonetheless, he needs to come in the end, because only he possesses this knowledge of this 5000 year time cycle, and he teaches this to all of us. He doesn't take birth like us. Instead, he enters an old man's body directly, and he names him Brahma and gives these teachings called Murli, which is available absolutely free of cost in all Brahmakumari's Rajog meditation centers. So you can Google it yourself for the nearest Brahmakumari's Rajog meditation center. It is spread across the globe. It's everywhere absolutely, and absolutely free of cost. And you can also find Murlis in all languages in YouTube and many websites. You can also Google it yourself. And the essence of God's teaching is to become soul conscious again. But we are so weak that our soul has no power at all to concentrate on soul constantly again. So that is the reason we need to remember God as much as possible as a point of light. It's a golden red colored light world, so we need to remember God as a point of light or a star shining in the golden red colored sky. Also, we need to consider ourselves to be souls and not as the body. The more we consider ourselves to be souls and connect our mind with God, the more our past sins will be burnt away, which means the intuition to commit those sins will be washed away by constantly remembering God, by constantly churning over his teachings called Murli all the time, and also by practicing seeing everybody as souls. All souls are children of the Supreme Soul, God Shiva. So we are all brothers and sisters. So how can you lust your own sister or brother? So This takes time because for the last 2500 years we have been slaves for these vices. It's not that easy to come out of that slavery just like that. It is this slavery that is mentioned in Bible and Quran as the slaves of Egypt. But as a matter of fact, it is not the slaves of Egypt but the slaves of these five vices that God helps to overcome that slavery by giving us these teachings. As a result, we escape the punishment for our past sins, and moreover, we can claim the highest status in heaven, which is the Lakshmi Narayan status, because that's a kingdom. So, Lakshmi and Narayan, they are the highest emperor and empresses. So, in order to become that, we need to become as pure as God by staying in remembrance of God and nothing else. We should not remember anything else but God. Of course, it takes time and effort, but we need to put more effort for us to come out of this slavery of lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. And the number one enemy is lust. That's why it's mentioned in Gita as Kam Mahashatru. Lust is the greatest enemy. So, we are seeing many crimes because of addiction to sex. So we have to save ourselves from committing such sins no matter what happens right before your eyes. For that, you need to consider everybody, including your including your wife or husband, to be your brother and sister. Only in this birth we need to practice this, because in heaven, obviously, there won't be Ravan or Satan. So Ravan, 10-headed Ravan, is nothing but these five vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego is present both in men and women. The combined form is called the 10-headed Ravan. Apart from that, there was nobody with 10 heads. So everybody in the scripture, if you take it directly, it makes absolutely no sense, but it has a deep spiritual meaning hidden in it, and we are revealing it in all videos. And how do we know that? Only by reading Murli's, which is the direct knowledge given directly by God Shiva. So go to the nearest Brahmakumari center and make your future so fortunate. And by giving this knowledge to your family and friends and relatives, you are making them fortunate as well. This is the biggest charity that even the poorest person can easily afford to make. But this is the biggest charity, because the benefit of this charity is not one or two but 21 births in heaven. 2500 years, you need not worry about food, you need not worry about wealth, because everything will be in abundance. So that's the kingdom of heaven, created by God solely for us. And He prepares us by purifying us, by giving us the way to become pure. And the way is pretty simple. In fact, it is the simplest. Just consider yourself to be the soul and remember God as a point of light as much as possible, no matter what you do. Whether you eat, walk, take bath, speaking with friends, no matter what you do, just bear in mind, I am a soul, son of the Supreme Soul, and I am washing away my sins by being in remembrance of God, so that I can claim the highest status of heaven, which is Lakshmi Narayan. So always bear this in mind. Then not only will be reaching heaven, but also we will be making this life as safe as possible, as happy as possible, because we can't change the whole world, because that's the task of God, but we can change ourselves. That's absolutely in our hands. So we can give this knowledge to as many persons as possible, and it is up to them whether or not they are willing to take this knowledge and transform themselves so that they can save themselves. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching.